Three. Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode. Before I introduce you to our guest, here is a quote just for this episode. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. The world is not yet crazy enough place to reward a whole bunch of undeserving people. Charlie Munger, our dear friend to the Culture Matters podcast, Eddy Perez, is back again for another episode. He's a mentor to many in and outside of the mortgage industry, a leader of change, a winner in a sea change in the environment of the industry, meaning although many are not succeeding, those around this person, Eddy Perez, are. And one of the most committed people I know to the game of business, the game of life. Thank you for coming back and inherently exemplifying this quote that I picked. The world is not yet crazy enough to place to reward a whole bunch of undeserving people. Um, thanks for coming back.
My pleasure.
Thanks for honoring Charles Munger.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. I want to ask you about the what it takes for first of all, what it takes to succeed at a high level in your view. But to get to that, I'm curious, what are some elements that you think, if you were attempting to totally run the train off the tracks, not right, as Munger would say, invert, always invert. How can we undermine our high performance? What are some things we can do to undermine high performance? Because I want to talk to you about being a high performer.
So no, just so I get it clear, if you were on a train of high performance, how do you take it off the rails?
Boom, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's actually a very simple answer. Most things, actually, you know what? Most things in life really are simple. I didn't say they're easy, and I'll explain why, but they are simple. Forget how you got there. And what do I mean by that is to get to anything, you started at ground zero. And there were steps that you took. And along that steps, you built a regimen, you built a discipline, you built a consistency. Get to a point, we've all heard it before, where you think that you're at such a level and you've improved so much that you don't have to do those steps anymore, because life is like a staircase. So in other words, you can start going backwards because you're not taking the steps up. Um, it's very simple to throw you off the rails, because there does come to a point that you're doing a lot better. You have done well, but it's okay if you take like a day off. And what I mean by that is like, if you were to tell me I'm going to do something consistently for 355 days out of 365, I don't think you miss 10 days is going to kill you. Unless you miss 10 days in the last 2 months, then you're showing a pattern. So that's what I'd say is, forget where you came from and what got you there, and stop doing it.
What do you think are some of the elements that attribute to stopping what gets us there?
No, this is where if you put yourself in other people's shoes, it gives you a lot of clarity on why. I think burnout. I think they paid such a price, they just want to take a break. That's all it really is. And that's why, it's talked about in Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The safest place is to take a vacation with yourself. And what I've interpreted and figured that out to be is, if you work on yourself for 2 hours a day, at least 1 to 2 hours a day, complete alone time, you're not going to get that burnout, because what you're doing is just do basic math. That's 700 and something, uh, hours. You look at how many hours you're actually awake and functioning, and you divide it. You've essentially taken, I forget the numbers because I don't have my calculator in front of me. You've taken at least a 4 to 6 week vacation every year with your soul. So that's why I think people just burn out. Sadly, I just think they go so hard, like their hair's on fire, that they just completely just burn out. I mean, and burnout's legit. And it's legit because the mind, body, and spirit can only take so much. You got to refuel it. And it's like running with no carbs and no energy. Eventually you're just gonna crash. That's all that
Hmm.
really happens. I don't think a
What
lot of people get lazy. I just think they along the ride, they didn't build a very important system to sustain almost like internal combustion.
so someone's listening to this that wants to get back on the tracks.
Mhm.
Where would one start?
Well, there's two ways to start, but it's backwards always. If you've already been on the tracks, then you got to reverse engineer it. Where did you go? How did you get to where you got? And where did you start? So, in other words, well, I did this. When you reverse it, you have to reverse engineer into everything. Life's backwards. So it's not really starting to get back on the tracks. You're already there. You may have just come to a stop. You have to reverse backwards to see what got you there and just start doing that again. Regimen's very important. I think Michael Jordan had a great quote in his book. He goes, I never lost a single game. I just ran out of time. Um, Time is really our only, I don't want to use the word enemy, but time really is the only commodity in this world. If you talk to anybody who's had a lot of success and they talk to younger people, the number one thing they say is don't waste your time. That's like over. I mean, that is the true, that is, you can replace money, you can replace new friends if you change, you can lose it all, get it all back. At least if you're in America, you can never get back that time, even though maybe you got educated through that knowledge and now you can cheat time. But when you cheat time, you got to use it to your advantage.
Hmm. How do you see playing the long game versus the short?
It's the same. It's the consistency that I talk about, and it's understanding that you can probably be a 20 to 30-year overnight sensation. Because that seems what everybody's like, where did this person come from? Oh my God, they're an overnight success. And then you reverse engineer it. And then you're like, oh no, they've been going at this 20, 25 years. I mean, even athletes, I say this all the time. They're like, this guy's a star. He's 25. Where did he come from? Well, he's been playing since he's 5. So what do you mean, where's he come from? His parents or family or whoever drove him to games or got him to practices or mentors got him there. If they came from unfortunate situations, somebody helped them along the way, but they paid a price. They just paid it at a younger age. And sports is a young man's game, unlike business and life, because your body at a younger age does perform better, and that's all about your physical attributions. I'm not saying mental is not important. You need that, but even if you're the smartest athlete, if all of a sudden, you're 50, you can't keep up with the 20-year-olds, which makes sense. Father time is big time in that, isn't it?
Has being a high performance sports athlete helped you understand the importance of time, you think? Because
No,
your
no, it
body.
wasn't that. It wasn't that. No, it was my father's death. There's only so much time you get in. And I'm not saying because I didn't play sports that didn't help, but that's what made me realize you really don't know how much time you have. And we all sadly waste time. It's kind of why in some of our discussions that we were having yesterday, I try to map out as much as I can. And you got to leave room for adjustment periods in there, but I try to map out as much as I day when I wake up to when I go to bed. Because that's actually something I did learn from my father that he always said. Um, One of our favorite lines he and I together was "Carpe diem," that was talked about in the movie Dead Poet Society. Live to seize the day. And he always said that real people go to bed when it's dark and get up when it's dark because the day is the light and is meant to be conquered. If you conquer the
Wow.
light, you conquer it all. So he said, you should not ever waste one drop of sunlight because that's the light and that's the positive energy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what did you draw from that in your beginning of your career? What lessons in the beginning of your mortgage career?
Luckily, he was still alive at that point. I had that confidant that I'd actually listened to. Uh, he just told me, "Hey, man, I started getting up at 5. You want to work out? You need to." He's the one that actually suggested, even though my father didn't work out, take care of his health. He's the one that said, "You can't do it in the afternoons. Your mind's fried." Like he started giving me some logical ideas. Like, son, of course you're not gonna be able to work out in the afternoon. You're brain dead if you're going hard. You actually just that's when you need to take when you need to slow down and relax, and use less energy. So my father got up at 5 every day. That's part of the reason I get up at 4:45 is to honor him because I feel like I got to pay a bigger price than he did.
Hmm. Why?
Um,
Why is
and
that?
he paved the way. I have all the advantages that anybody could ever ask for. I was born in America. I was born from immigrant parents. I was born from parents that, as crazy as it sounds, had health problems throughout my whole life. My father had a heart attack before I was born. So his health was always a little bit, I would say, of an anxiety, but in a you got to take care of things. My mom had stage 4 cancer when I was 17. So, and then my dad passed away when I was 31. And they told me at 17 that my mom would only see my 18th birthday. And crazy enough, that actually kind of builds a certain resilience. So, and then me learning how to speak English. Coincidentally, at the same time, it was discovered that I was extremely fast. So that helped in sports and that helped build some self assurance at a young age, especially, me having to break an accent and having to take speech classes. However, those were all gifts because now didn't even realize this. It was Michael Lasso that pointed it out that he has found in his discovery the people that can articulate the best were the people where English is their second language because they learned it the right way, which ironically, never in a million years would have ever thought of that. But it's because you had to train so hard at a skill young to overcome multiple things that it just naturally builds a certain strength that's almost unpenetrable. Those are all gifts and advantages. So, my father, my mother, who came here with nothing, can be getting up. They came here, alone. My dad came here alone, first one. My mom came later. They met, but she came with a sister. They can come alone and fearful and just looking for hope for a second chance. Then if I don't, I piss it all away. And that's always, it's funny, it's ironic. If you lose because somebody's better, then you just got to get better. If you lose because you pissed it away, oh, that's the worst because you beat yourself. And that's part of the
Hmm.
reason I say your competition, your competitors, just you. So that's why, to answer it, is I just feel like I've been given every real advantage. And I'm not talking about monetary or coming from some debutante culture. I'm talking about the real life muscles that you need to achieve. And success is not a monetary thing. Success can be your engagement with relationships, your impact on others, your natural curiosity, your creativity, your camaraderie, bringing people together. That's all success.
Why?
What?
Why is that success?
Because if you chase success, the money happens. Money's a byproduct. Money is like, you hear people all the time say the same thing. Let's go reverse engineer to the core. You know, well, I want freedom. Okay. Well, how do you get freedom? Well, you need two things. You need liberty and self-responsibility. Huh. Okay. Well, how the heck do I get that? You got to have courage. So are you really happy? Or are you just self-courageous? You get up early, you do the tough stuff, you lean in, you have the hard conversations, you talk to somebody for an hour, and even though it's painful, you get the 5 last minutes where the gold really sits. So you have to have patience. And then let's look at the same thing. people are like, oh, that person is loaded with perspective. Okay. All right. Well, once again, perspective is a byproduct, just like happiness. They don't really exist. Okay. So how does somebody have perspective? They have to have great humility. Okay. How does somebody have great humility? Okay. Well, that's simple. Do they have a lot of gratitude? Are they somebody who pays it forward? Are they somebody who doesn't forget who believed in when others didn't? So truly, if you seek gratitude and courage, it will seem like other things. And that's the same thing as if you chase the success of a relationship, which means adding value to each other jointly together, and 1+1 = 3. If you do all those things, I'll just let it, miraculously, your bank account will somehow keep growing and growing and growing and growing. You don't have to, you know, trip over dollars.
What are some of the disadvantages of thinking short term?
Disadvantages. I would tell you, anything you ever get in life quickly, you don't respect it. So you just expect it to keep coming. And it may be, and this happens, and this is the metaphor I'd use. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle, and you have to be able to be aware, was it lightning in a bottle? And if it was, how do you keep it going? Because that's the other thing, is if you do catch lightning in a bottle, you can keep it. You just have to become very stringent and regimen based around it.
Hmm. What's the opportunity in the lightning in the bottle?
I mean, it
Does
depends
everyone get
on.
it?
I mean, I think if you go hard at things for a consistent period of time, you will get lightning in the bottle. You will get those slingshot opportunities, and you just got to
Hmm.
capitalize on them. It's no different than, we go back to sports. If you get a turnover, go score some points. That's like a psychological edge you give somebody, where even if you're not as good as them, you psychologically have wounded them to gain an advantage.
But you have to be ready for that opportunity.
Yes, yes. That's why, luck doesn't really exist. Um, I heard this from a guy I was in high school. He said, I've never met anybody that got lucky. I've met people that were prepared for opportunities. And then somebody said, I loved it because a kid said, no, no, no. What happens if somebody wins the lottery? Are you buying tickets? Well,
Yeah.
no. There you go. You have to be prepared for every I forgot who said the line, but the harder I work, the luckier I get, is a very, very crisp, precise point.
These questions are about to ask more for the person listening that wants to be a master at the field they choose. What age were you when you chose your field?
Finance as a whole, or the mortgage side of it, because that's two different.
Mortgage side of it.
21 years ago. So it was June of 2002. So it was right before my 26th birthday, because I was born in 1976.
And as of this recording, you're how old?
47.
How many hours do you think, like ballpark, have been put into mastering this craft? Because there are people listening that have built a relationship with you all these episodes of the Culture Matters podcast that haven't yet gotten to meet you, that may want to be great at in that small group of people that get to the top of their field, that are thinking, how, or
Oh
maybe
no,
they're
that's
not even thinking
that's an
how yet
advice that I
because
heard. There was an advice I actually heard in 2000, late 2000, from a guy named Alan Meltzer, who was crushing it in insurance. He spoke and he said, whatever your craft is, you need to read and study 6 to 8 hours a week.
wow.
And he's just saying the industry. He's not, you can work the other parts of your craft that you got to work on are separate, but He said, you have to read 6 to 8 hours a week. So then, when we talk about, my guy, El Presidente Mancuso, he's a guy that says, I don't read books. But then when I talk to him, he reads like 20 hours a week about the market and what's going on in the industry. So don't tell me you didn't read. It's just a different medium that you read. You actually read more than anybody that I really know. 20 hours a week is legit. I mean, that's 80 hours a month.
A lot.
There's a
lot.
There's a line in for those that have watched Silence of the Lambs, when they go to, and it's a movie, but they did do this in real life when they went to Ted Bundy and they go to serial killers to try to find other serial killers, and they explain to them where the answers are right in front of them and they don't know it. The answers really are right in front of you. You just got to go pursue and look at them deep. And that's what the 6 to 8 hours do. All of a sudden people are like, oh my God, you're a genius. You predicted it. Not really, Chief. I just read it, figured it out, and I didn't lie to myself. And it was very obvious where the ball was going. I went to where, I think it was Wayne Gretzky that said it, go to where the puck's going, not where it's at. That's all you do. It's a tribute to Albert Einstein, because I saw that quote of his that my ICANN is much higher than my IQ. And I did some research on it, and it's because he had the philosophy. He goes, look, I have 161 IQ and I'm considered the smartest guy in the world. And there's many people walking around that have a much higher. It's just my ICANN. Yeah. And that's kind of what that is. It's, if you've got the natural tools and you don't have any disabilities of any sort, but I've seen plenty of people with disabilities that actually use that later as fuel and then know how to weaponize it to their advantage. There's plenty of smarts that you have to really become prepared, because that's really what we're talking about. The word smart is so overused versus an ability to take action, because most people fail, as Ulysses Grant said, not for inability, but for ignorance. Well, why do you have ignorance? Because you didn't study and put in the work to know your craft. To circle it all back to that, 6 to 8 hours a week studying your craft. And look, as that guy Alan Meltzer said, he'd read through some stocks and some financials. He's like, man, some of this stuff really could put you to bed. But you grind through it, you find a way to get it through there, and then it gets easier and easier and easier.
Do you believe in the 10,000 hour rule or something to that effect?
There's something legit about it. Definitely. Believe? I mean, yeah. I mean, I've never done the numbers, but that makes complete sense. It does, because it's kind of like what I said to my nephew when he was working for me, and I was 14, almost 15 when he was born. If he was 23, yeah, I was approaching 38. And we had it. This is a famous blow up that we had. It was pretty bad. Jason Callan can tell you this one. He said, Eddie, at your age, I'll be in your position. I said, no, you won't. You won't pay the price. I can't get you to work at time at 23 years old. You go out and party during the work week, but then on the weekends, when I was your age, he's like, you were young out once. I said, yeah, but Sunday to Thursday were school nights, as I called them. I didn't go out those nights. I said, that's when you go out. But then the weekend, if you really need to learn and do that, fine. There's better things you can invest in, but we all go through an age of maturity. So I'm not knocking it, because I sure as heck wasn't doing it. Go do it then. Don't do it on school nights. And he just could not wrap his brain around that. And then, of course, because he knew my father, he said some pretty outlandish things. And I just said, look, you need to go pack it up and walk away, but you're never going to get here because you can't get to work by 9 o'clock. We're not talking about like 6 o'clock. I mean, even though if you've made a commitment to get at 6 o'clock, you should get there. So I'm not, but at least 6 o'clock, I'd be like, hey, it's kind of like when I took college classes in my freshman first time. Brilliant of me. I'm going to take 8:30 classes. Yeah, that was a horrible idea. Horrible. So you can adjust. And then I started taking 10 o'clock classes, and that was completely okay. So, okay, if you can't get to work, but he couldn't even get to 9. And it was always this excuse. Oh, I can't sleep. You don't understand. I had a concussion. I did. Well, go do something about it. And he looked at me like I smoked crack. What do you mean go do something about it? Okay, go. Yeah, he's like, did you ever subject yourself to sleep studies? I mean, these people do it for free. They will study you because they can use that research and data to help people, and that's grows their business and grows everything. So, yeah, man, you gotta pay the price.
Do you think being creative in your problem solving has helped you?
Astronomically, astronomically. That's where I've developed skills around it, but that was a gift that I was born with that I do appreciate. And it doesn't surprise me because genetically we all owe everything to our parents. Both of my parents were pretty, I mean, look, they got out of Cuba and built a life better than 95, 96% of Americans. And coming here, my dad was homeless. My mom had to get sponsored by a family. So think about that. They wouldn't honor my mom's degree. My dad went from baseball player to construction worker. So they started not only in new countries, new lives, new fields. And look at what they did. My parents were always very creative. And look, creative problem solving. I don't know a percentage. I'm just going to say something just for fun, or at least let me say in my belief system. 75% of it's just doing it and trying to figure it out and just like chopping down the tree. You've got the axe, just keep hitting it. Eventually you'll get there. And you'll learn how to get better at it.
What in closing, what do you say to the listener that has doubt in himself right now?
Perfectly normal. Don't beat yourself up. They have doubt more than likely because of their past or something they've been through. And it goes back to time. You can't go back and change that. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because trust me, I will be the first one to tell you if there's certain things I could unpack, I would. Because I have learned in my regiment at this age is I can still be entrenched, involved with my kids and really be there and engaged with them. Maybe not less time than the person that's around more, but I mean engaged. So it's more impactful. So they actually view it more and not compromise the time with them and still run an organization, grow it. So um, I say this all the time. I don't really have any regrets on my youngest two. It's my oldest, and I don't really have regrets anymore. I've let the past go because there's nothing I can do about it until somebody creates a time machine, is what I'd tell that person. And look, some of the doubt may be the people that they're around them. It sucks, you know. Family is not blood. Family's that's who stand behind you. It's kind of what I texted you about my code of life. Ain't got to be blood, but toxic people you got to get out of your life. You need to lean in and find out what makes them toxic, because if you can put yourself in their shoes, then you can understand not to betray yourself on that one. Self-deceit is a very hard thing to identify. That's why former addicts are so good at it, because of the immense lies that they lived. And if anybody was ever significantly addicted to something, they can spot that self-sabotage extremely well. In my case, how addicted I was to cigarettes, pack and a half, 2 packs a day for 10 years, and the lies I would tell myself around it, like, yeah, I'm just going to smoke on the weekends every time I'd quit, start back up. Now, it's not viewed as negativity, or I would drink 6 to 10 soft drinks a day. Those were two things I did concurrently. Oh, no, man, I'll do this. Luckily, it's not heroin or drugs or significant alcohol or what I would even say significant drama, always looking to pick a fight. However, that does destroy your life too. Just luckily, it's more of an internal thing, and you don't see it as external as others. So I would just say that they just really lean into whatever those doubts are and just put the time away, because the clock never stops running. I'm not going to get back the 30 minutes before we started this. However, I know that this time will impact so many people and even impact us together, that it allows to cheat time, as I say, because that's all you can do is cheat time. All you can do is take time, 1 + 1 = 3. And that means you're leveraging it with others. So yeah, I would say that they just got to let go of their past, sadly. And I know it's tough because your ego and your mind keeps taking you down that road. There's a great book, The War of Art. Yep. That talks about the resistance, which is how to fight your mind. It's the same thing you hear David Goggins talk about, so many others. It's all wrapped up. But that book is a very easy read, and it really does nail it. Like, it may be the shortest read with like 10 or 15 incredible points. And usually when you read a book, you're looking for one or two. This one's got like, I mean, you get one or two because it gives you an archetype theme, but I mean, it gives you
Wow.
incredible. So yeah, that's all I would say in closing. I would just tell those people, perfectly okay, more than likely. You got to get past your past. Now, look, you may have had a traumatic experience. I didn't say go talk to somebody, go get it. I'm not saying don't go work on yourself. What I'm saying is there's nothing you can do about it. And all you do when you beat yourself up is rob you from the now. Yesterday, the two most worthless days of the year, yesterday and today. I mean, tomorrow. But today, you're robbing the now because your tomorrow is not going to get better if you don't do your today. It's just that simple.